امشي في اتجاه خوفك يا رفعت.
At the beginning of the third episode, Rida visits Refaat in the hospital to console him and tells him that they are all praying for Hawaii. He also offers some money, but Refaat politely declines his offer. Rida asks if there's been any progress in finding a cure for Hawaii. Refaat mentions an upcoming medical conference, hoping that one of the foreign doctors might discover something they've overlooked. He then inquires about the house, and Rida informs him that an outsider has purchased it and intends to demolish the place. Later, Refaat thinks about whether Shiraz might be responsible for all this. He questions why she would suddenly reappear in his life. He wonders if jealousy is a motive, but he's puzzled as to why Hawaii is the target and not Maggie. A doctor then comes out and informs Refaat that they've decided to relocate the medical conference to Tripoli, Libya. Later, as he is about to leave for Libya with Maggie, he informs Maggie that Ramsey mentioned the antidote for the curse can be found in Libya, specifically a flower called silphium. He acknowledges that it might sound out of character and that he's now believing in seemingly impossible things. Maggie says all of them can change, including him, and sits in the car. Following the conference in Libya, Refaat informs Maggie that there is still no cure for Hawaii's condition. After this, both of them decide to attend the lecture of Dr. Louis, where he demonstrates an experiment involving a rare drug extracted from a plant called silphium, scientifically known as Ferula asafoetida. The drug was injected into a dying rat, miraculously saving its life. The ancient Romans and Greeks revered this plant, believing it had the potential to cure various ailments, including paralysis and skin diseases. They considered it the treatment for the untreatable. Dr. Lewis explains that the experiment was conducted 5 years ago, and the remaining samples of the drug have been depleted. Unfortunately, silphium is believed to be extinct today. However, the plant's natural habitat is in Libya, where they are currently located. After this, Refaat and Maggie meet Louis in person, and we learn that he is their college friend. Refaat says he needs a sample of silphium for his fiancée Hawaii. Louis shares that the last he heard about silphium is that he could find it among tribes called Tuareg, but it's almost extinct. However, he has friends who organize safaris and they get them started. Following their discussion, Refaat, Maggie, and Louis embark on their journey to search for the silphium plant. They reach a point where Louis's friend stops the car and informs them that they are about to enter tribal lands, the starting point of their adventure. As they continue their journey, they come across a border marked by rocks with inscriptions in an ancient language. During the night, Louis does tarot card readings for Refaat, and the cards suggest that Refaat is grappling with something from his past. Refaat is skeptical, attributing it to the Barnum effect, where people interpret vague statements to be highly personal. Refaat remarks that this guy using sticks to defend against an unseen threat. Louis suggests that this may be precisely the case, as he might be fighting with something he doesn't know what it wants. The second card, the Queen of Cups, typically relates to love, but when it's inverted, it can signify that his beloved is in danger. Refaat mentions that Maggie already told him about his fiancée's illness and says he is done. Only then they are surrounded by people of the Tuareg tribe, who ask them who gave them permission to come here. Refaat says they are looking for silphium, to which they point their guns at them and say that the plant has been extinct for generations. They then warn them that if they find them on their land again, they will pay with their lives. Later, Louis says it seems neither of them will be asleep anytime soon, so he wants to finish the reading. Refaat picks up a card drawing the Nine of Swords. Louis interprets this card as a representation of something in the present that he fears and needs to confront. He suggests that he must follow and confront this fear. Only then does Eldin from the tribe come there and offer to help them find the silphium plant, but asks for compensation. He instructs them to meet him at a specific hill. However, if anyone else from the tribe finds out, he will deny any involvement. Now after some time, as Eldin takes the money from Refaat and tells them about the nearby cave where the silphium plant can be found, Refaat questions why they were initially told the plant was extinct, to which as Eldin explains that the custodian of the cave is not human or any known creature. He tells them that opening the cave and releasing it could potentially unleash unimaginable consequences. However, he assures them that he has acquired something that will protect them from harm. Now after walking some distance, as Eldin suddenly stops and warns them about quicksand ahead, advising them not to step into it. He instructs them that if they find themselves stuck in quicksand, they shouldn't struggle and should remain calm. Upon reaching the cave, as Eldin tells them that before entering, they must seek permission, he sits down and begins chanting something. However, when the cave entrance remains closed, he concludes that the custodian has not granted permission, and instructs everyone to kneel down, and Louis and Maggie comply. Refaat, on the other hand, dismisses these rituals as nonsense and proceeds to the cave entrance. where he plants dynamite. After a while, the explosion blows open the entrance, and Maggie and Louis also enter the cave, following Refaat. Refaat instructs them to split up and that they will meet back here in half an hour. And outside, as Eldin abandons his money and belongings and makes a hasty escape from the area. After some time, Refaat reaches that plant but his eyes do not fall on it and he goes away from there. On the other hand, we see that a giant entity attacks as Eldin, and here in the cave, the three of them hear his screams. The three of them come out of the cave, where they see huge footprints. When they go a little further, they find the dead body of Eldin, and then a terrible roar is heard from behind. As they move away from the cave, Refaat speculates that a large animal might be responsible for the disturbance. However, Louis disagrees, explaining that the tracks and the sounds they heard were beyond what any known animal could produce. Louis suggests that while they may not understand what killed Eldin, they did witness its footprints and the deceased body, indicating something unusual. Later that night, Refaat confides in Maggie, revealing that whenever he genuinely cares about something, a disaster seems to follow. He recounts an incident from years ago when a father brought his son to him for treatment. He had always remained composed in such situations, no matter the circumstances. However, this time was different. He cared deeply, and the fear overcame him, causing him to forget everything he had learned, and tragically, he lost the boy. He learned that when you truly love someone, you might find yourself unable to save them. Maggie says that sometimes detachment can be useful in remaining objective. However, she cautions that if fear leads him to create too much emotional distance between himself and those he loves, he might lose himself. While Louis is urinating, he suddenly hears the sound of the monster. Alarmed, he quickly informs Refaat and Maggie that they need to depart immediately due to the strange sounds he heard. As they look in the direction, they spot a gorilla-like creature approaching them. Filled with fear, they hastily begin running away from the approaching menace. As the creature pursues them, they run for some distance. However, Refaat suddenly becomes aware that he's ensnared in quicksand, while Maggie and Louis continue to flee. The creature lunges towards Refaat to attack, but he quickly ducks, narrowly avoiding its grasp. In an unexpected turn of events, the creature becomes trapped in the quicksand and struggles to escape, ultimately sinking into it. Refaat comes out of the quicksand. Maggie and Louis return to his side, and they witness the creature completely submerging in the quicksand. They attempt to return to the cave but find themselves seemingly walking in circles. Louis, concerned, instructs Maggie and Refaat to draw cards, and to their astonishment, they both select the same card, which Louis interprets as a sign of death. Refaat dismisses the cards as mere superstition, but Louis insists that when a death card appears to a group of people in the same location, it carries a more profound significance. Despite the ominous warning, Refaat remains skeptical and decides to continue his journey back to the cave, and the three of them set out once again on their quest. After wandering for a long time, they come across the gruesome sight of the slaughtered bodies of all the people from that tribe. Among the carnage, Maggie discovers one of the men who is still alive. He reveals to them that they have released the custodian, and now every one of them is going to die. At this moment, a flood of memories and realizations rushes over Refaat. He suddenly becomes aware that Shiraz's soul is standing some distance behind him. Having said this, the man also passes away, and we then witness Refaat following Shiraz. After following Shiraz for some distance, he finds Eldin's bag, and watches Shiraz going inside the cave. He follows her inside the cave but Shiraz has now disappeared. Refaat eventually acquires the flower, and with the flower in hand, he makes the decision to detonate the cave with dynamite. Just as he ignites the fuse, he hears Maggie's voice coming from inside the cave. In a moment of panic, he hastily extinguishes the fuse and heads back into the cave to search for Maggie. Unbeknownst to him, the fuse is still burning. While searching for Maggie, Refaat hears the snarl of the creature from behind a pile of rocks. Fear grips him, but he bravely follows the sound, and as he moves a rock, he discovers a baby of the creature hidden behind it. Refaat realizes that the custodian was not guarding the flower but rather his own offspring. Just then, he hears Maggie scream and spots the enormous creature closing in on him. The creature's attention shifts to Refaat, and he instinctively places the custodian's child in front of him. This act seems to calm the creature's anger, and it takes its child before departing from the scene. As Refaat and Maggie exit the cave, a dynamite explosion occurs, causing the cave entrance to collapse and seal shut, and during this, Louis also reaches there with help. The following day, before departing, Refaat expresses his gratitude to Louis for his assistance and expresses an interest in knowing his future. Louis agrees and invites him to pick 3 cards. Reading the first card, Louis informs Refaat that he is going to lose someone he loves. Refaat inquires if it's Hawaida, but Louis admits that he's not certain. The second card symbolizes the subconscious and dreams, suggesting that his answers may be found in his dreams. However, Maggie arrives at that moment, noting that they are running late, and Refaat leaves without having the third card read. Upon returning, the doctor administers a drug made from the flower, and Refaat takes responsibility for this decision, and the following morning, Hawaya miraculously awakens from her coma. Later, as Hawaya prepares to leave the hospital, she stumbles upon a note from Refaat along with his engagement ring, and the note conveys his apologies. Thanks for joining us on our horror movie recap adventure. If you enjoyed the chills, subscribing would mean a lot. Drop a comment to share your thoughts and keep the terror alive. Stay spooky and see you soon.